In 1974, LEGO hired a young Jan Rita. One of Jan Rita's first tasks was to help design a figure for Homemaker. Started in 1971 by a group of female designers whose names have sadly been lost to history. Homemaker was one of the first themes to use tiles, which allowed dolls to be integrated into Homemaker sets. While it was designed for girls, the theme wasn't striking a chord with the female audience LEGO was hoping. So, one of Jan Rita's first tasks, along with a group, was to design a figure. As Jan Rita told the Brick blogger many years later,
"In 1971, we were producing sets for girls, doll houses with furniture but no people. Role play in those days was very much dad, mom, children, so a play figure was important. We got to work on it. I seem to recall that we had a few problems getting the arms to work properly."
However, it became clear that the figures weren't going to live up to the standards of dolls of the time, as their legs could not move. So, a compromise was made. An unidentified LEGO designer suggested that the figures should have hollow hands, allowing them to have a bar connection, something most dolls didn't really have. This created a butterfly effect where modern bar connections as we know today started with the Homemaker figure. Another important detail is that the Homemaker figure gave us the yellow skin tone. As Jan recalls,
"We spent ages decorating those figures, and as was the custom, in those days we got help from external partners in arriving at the finished figure."
the Homemaker figure would debut in 1974, and it was a bestseller. Homemaker sales went up, and it proved to the LEGO Group a figure could make a huge difference in sales. Not too long after the Homemaker figure came out, with permission from Godfred Kirk Christensen himself, Jens Nygaard Knudsen would assemble a team to start development on what would eventually become the minifigure, and after some trial and error, Jens and the team would create the modern minifigure as we know it. Now, despite his success with Homemaker, Jan Rita would begin development on a project he was passionate about since he was a kid.
One of the things that I built with them was actually to make them move. And I got the Lego train motor, and with a rubber band I make things move. But when I started at Lego, I wanted to make things move too.
Fortunately for Jan Rita, he found someone who was also interested in his dream, and that man was named Eric Bach.
I didn't invent the Technic program myself, of course. I had a colleague which was very interested in the same thing, and we had a lot of collaboration together and making this work.
Now, despite wanting to make a functional Lego car, Jan Rita and Eric Bach quickly ran into a problem. Making a Lego car required a huge piece count, and that would mean the price would be unaffordable for most kids. Jan Rita decided to take a look at some of the previous gears that had been designed by a man by the name of Knud Muller Christensen. He's famous for designing the Lego wheels. Jan Rita and Eric Bach felt that these wheels were too big. However, the axle system they had used, they incorporated into this project they were working on. Both men experimented drilling holes into bricks, creating gears in odd numbers, until finally, after years of planning, Technical Sets was released in 1977.
One of my first sets that I built, where the engine was going up and down, the pistons going up and down, and actually the steering wheels could maneuver the wheels in front. I was asked what inspired us to make models, and at that time, of course, something from the real life, as cars, helicopters, farm machines, and those kind of stuff. At that time, we only had 5 colors, and those were the only colors that we had. We had actually tried to make some of the element in gray. But when we took pictures for the boxes with those gray elements, they became kind of army green. And that was very annoying for us, that we couldn't get the right color on these elements. So that's why we only kept it into the Lego color that we had at that time. 5 Lego colors, not more.
It's safe to say that Technical Sets, also called Expert Builder, was another success for Jan Rita. It was another market Lego had been targeting for years with their hobby sets in the 70s. Kjell Christensen himself had even tried making a car. However, with Technical Sets, it allowed kids to create working engines as well as cars that could steer and move. This honestly opened the door to many new possibilities in an already complex building system. Now, it's important to keep in mind, while Technic today has a huge designer team working on multiple sets, back then, it was only Jan Rita and Erik Bach designing sets. That means they were designing instructions, designing idea books, and creating new alternate models for the models that we're already creating. That's an insane amount of work for only 2 people, and they did this up until the early 80s when more people joined the Technic team. It was around this time also that a decision was made. In Europe, the theme had been called Technical Sets, however in North America, it had been called Expert Builder. It was decided by Lego to call it Technic. While the Technic theme was doing well in the 80s, it was noticed how well figures went into role-playing. You have to remember, one of Jan Rita's first themes was Homemaker, and so there was precedent, and plus he had seen how successful the minifigure had been in Space, Castle, Town, as well as the newly introduced Duplo figure and Fabuland figure. So, it's more than likely he, along with his team, decided Lego Technic needed a figure as well for role-playing.
One of the things that came on later was actually we want to make more life into the Technic program. So we actually found a figure, the Technic figure, that has been in our models for a couple of years. And just to give it more life, and the size of the figure actually fitted into the models that we made at that time. We had a long ping pong work where we actually tried to see if we could make more movements than the minifigure. So the arms had a link, and the legs could move the foot could actually also move in. That was the advantages with this figure, because it was bigger than the minifigure.
The first theme to feature the Technic figure was in 1986, and that was Lego Action, also known as Lego Arctic. Now this theme had an incredibly short lifespan. The theme only lasted a year and only had 4 sets to its name ever released. Now unfortunately I am missing one of the sets. However, I'll do my best to give a taste of what Lego Technic Arctic was like. Starting off, we have the Technic figure. Standing tall, it beats the standard minifigure with its height and its abilities. The Technic figure is able to hold items like the minifigure, however it's been replaced with the Technic pin connection. The Technic figure can hold axles, but only at certain angles. The only accessory the Technic figure had created for it at the time was the ski pole. This piece is still in production, however it's slightly been modified. The arms and legs can all bend and move. The legs have a pin connection, while the foot have a standard Lego connection, allowing you to place your figure on a studded surface. The design is mostly created for the skis that are used for the figures. These parts would later be famously used in Lego Ice Planet 2002. The designers also introduced a helmet. This is very similar to the standard minifig helmet, however, unlike the minifigure helmet, it simply goes over the figure's head. The head can also be removed. It's a similar connection to the Fabuland head and the basic head, although I will warn it's a tight fit and it can be quite risky. The arms can also be removed, however be warned, a pin is holding the arm together and it can break. Unfortunately, Bricklink nor eBay sell replacement pieces, so if you break the arms, you're in a bit of trouble. The last new part I want to go over is the Technic figure chair. It has a standard system connection and has 4 Technic pinholes. The chair allows the Technic figure to clip into vehicles, and it's literally a clip connection as there's 4 little basically impressions on the Technic figure, and they go into the chair itself. It's quite a good connection, and your Technic figure isn't going anywhere unless the play is intense. Now officially, there is 3 different versions of the LEGO Technic Arctic figure. However, due to the unique factory setup required to make these Technic figures, there are 2 other variants that were created by accident, causing several of the figures to have black arms rather than the correct blue arms. Bricklink and many websites have recognized these figures as variants because of how common they are, and it's quite common to find these sets with figures with black arms rather than blue arms, so I thought I'd point this out. Now it's time to take a look at the LEGO Technic Arctic sets. LEGO Technic Arctic heavily used its setting to create a sort of roleplay that Jan Rita and the team were trying to come up with. So let's see if they succeeded with this. Starting off, we have set 8620 Snow Scooter, although in other places it's called Ski Buggy. Now this set is honestly a great starter for the wave. It's clear due to the cost of the figure, Jan and the team knew that not everyone was going to be able to afford the more pricey sets. However, Snow Scooter is a nice set, and it's a great beginner for early Technic fans who are barely getting into the wave. The set's only real function is that it can turn, and it has a Technic figure which you can make ski. The figure also has ski poles and skis. However, the skis do sometimes fall out during play, but thankfully they did give you a spot to put the ski poles. Overall, this set is a great beginner for LEGO Technic fans, and I'm sure for many kids this was their first introduction to LEGO Technic. Next we have set 8640 Polar Copter, also known as Ski Copter. This set is another offering that allows you to get your hands on a Technic figure. However, this set was a little more expensive than Ski Scooter, but with its big size, it's clear to see that you're getting a little more for your money. I'm sure kids in the 80s must have thought this set was pretty huge. Comparing it to my first Technic set, I was surprised how big it was. The spinning on the rotor blades is a pretty cool function, although unfortunately my adult hands seem to be getting in the way. The designers, like with Ski Scooter, gave you a place to store your skis and ski poles, which is much appreciated. So this allows you to basically put them away while your figure is flying. Overall, there's not really much to the set, but it's another nice addition to this awesome collection. Lastly, we have set 8660 Arctic Rescue Unit. Surprisingly, this one doesn't have an alternate name. For anyone who grew up in the United States, I'm sure you can kind of see what this looks like. It kind of looks like a mail truck. Probably just a coincidence, but I think it's kind of cool. Now this set has quite a bit. As you can see, it has all-wheel drive, and on the top, there's hand of steering, which allows you to move the wheel, and the steering wheel also moves as well, which is always a nice touch. On the side, you can see there's a wheel, and this is used to lower and raise the ramp to have access to put away your little snowplow. Now, I gotta be honest, the snowplow is probably the weakest part of the set. I understand they were limited to the space they had, and it's quite interesting to me the Technic figure can't fit even going inside with the snowplow, but you have to kind of put the snowplow in a weird way to begin with. But I have to give credit to the designers, as the snowplow is quite cute and it's at the perfect scale, and it manages to fit in the van. And it's nice that they were able to create it in Technic figure scale, so I'll give credit where credit is due. Like the previous sets I talked about, this set features skis and ski poles. However, this time you're getting 2 because of the 2 different Technic figures you're getting in this set. So you can basically have both Technic figures ski if you want. Overall, this set is really cool, and if I'm being honest, it's my personal favorite from the whole wave. I just like how simplistic it is, but it's quite appealing, and I'm sure something like this went on many adventures in the Arctic. sets to me capture the feeling of this wave, which was to go have fun, go on adventures, and explore the unknown. And there you have it, the 3 Technic Arctic sets that I own. I want to quickly give a mention to 8680 Arctic Rescue Base. This set is mostly an interior space, making it one of the rarest Technic sets to basically be a building, which was never attempted again as far as I'm aware. It has a unique system where there's a pneumatic thing which lowers and raises the ramp, basically allowing you to have a helipad and this sort of ramp feature. You can even park the helicopter inside the base. It seems like a cool set, but until I can get my hands on it, I really don't have much to say about it. After LEGO Technic Arctic concluded, no more sets were made for the action line. Now it's difficult to say as details are fuzzy, but at some point LEGO was in development for a LEGO Technic figure space theme. It seems to have been in development around the late 80s to early 90s, however, it was never released. It's possible it was supposed to be another LEGO action theme, but we'll likely never know, and this screenshot is all the proof we have that this was even considered. Despite the LEGO Technic Arctic theme not being continued, it would be sold as late as 1990, until newer sets could replace it. Jan and the team would continue to release sets with the Technic figures, such as Prop Plane in 1988, which reuses a polar copter pilot, which is quite interesting, and we got the Technic figures, which gave us new designs, 2 of which were exclusive to the set. However, starting around this time, Jan and company would release sets without the Technic figure. This would keep the price down, and it would encourage kids to buy LEGO Technic guys. Now, dates are a little iffy. I'm mostly piecing this based off of what Jan and a couple others have said, but the events went something like this. With the 90s approaching, Jan, along with the team, began development on a girls' theme, which would later become Belleville. Likely because of his experience with Homemaker, he was brought on to the project. But because Belleville required more of Jan's time, as he said, he gave away his kits, meaning he stepped away from LEGO Technic. In his place would be Ole Vestergaard Poulsen and Stan Schmidt, who would go on to define 90s Technic with their innovations. This also meant a new era for the Technic figure would begin, and a new possible future theme. However, this is a story for a part 2. Hello, I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Please subscribe and comment and like this video. This project is a passion project of mine. I've been wanting to do this forever, and thanks to sources like Daniel Konstanski, The Secret Life of LEGO Bricks, as well as Beyond the Bricks interview and many other sources which will be listed in the comments section, this project has been possible. Honestly, could be a lot more information out there, so if you have any additional information, please let me know in the comments. I'll leave my Reddit link as well in the comments below. And happy 40th anniversary to the Technic figure, and thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again for part 2.